In this episode of Motive Garage presented by Howtech, we're taking a look at what went wrong with our RB30 from our R32 GTR. In our last episode of Motive Garage presented by Howtech, you saw that we decided to put a billet block in our R32 GTR because we had a main bearing issue in our cast RB30 block. Now that video was all about getting the billet block in, getting it sorted, the issues that we had, and then getting it racing at TX2K. Now in the meantime, the guys at Croydon Racing Developments have pulled down our RB30 so we can take a look at what went wrong, and then we can also discuss with you guys the pros and cons of a cast RB30 versus a billet and help you guys plan out your GTR engine build. Our cast RB30 block with Nitto 3.2 stroker is now laid out on the bench so we can take a look at exactly what went wrong. And it's actually really easy to spot. Almost everything on this engine is perfect. The deck is perfect, the bores are perfect, the big ends are perfect, the pistons are perfect, the rods are perfect, and almost every bearing journal is perfect. The only bearing journal that had a problem is the one in the middle. If you have a look at the crankshaft, you can see that there is some marks on the crankshaft from where it has grabbed the main bearing, the middle main bearing. If you have a look at the bearing itself, you can see basically it's just torn away, and that's what leads to all of the gold or bronze material that we saw in the clear view and all through the engine. But what happens is when you have bearing failure like that, the rest of the oil passage, even though you've got a filter elsewhere, you can then get tiny pieces of that bearing start making their way through the other bearings. So there are some little marks on some of the other bearings, but if you take a look at all of the main bearings on the rest of this, they're all in perfectly good condition. And if you have a look at the big ends, they're all in perfectly good condition. So you guys are going to ask yourself, so if the pistons are fine, the big ends are fine, the rods are fine, the bores are fine, and the deck is fine, how did we get damage to a main bearing? Well, really the only way to do that is if the tunnel for the crank has gone out of round. And taking a look at the measurements on this thing, that's basically exactly what has happened, is the measurement on the tunnel is slightly out. Once it's slightly out, it gets irregular wear on the crank and all the bearings, and that is exactly what we can see in the marks on this. Why did it do it? Well, the easy answer to that is quite simply just fatigue and bad luck. What we have learnt with the RB30 is that when this thing has been on 1,000 horsepower or even 1,100 horsepower and under and used for roll racing and as a street car and on a street tyre or even a drag radial without a good 60, we haven't had any issues. Every time we've had an issue with this block, it's when we turn the power up to 1150 or more and we start drag racing it and get a good 60 out of it. Now, why is that relevant? Well, you can imagine if you do a 1-3 in the 60, the amount of torsional load, the twisting on this block, if you can twist it at each end, where's it going to meet? It's going to meet in the middle, right on this. Did the launch affect it? Probably a little bit, but the main thing is just the amount of torque it makes. When this thing has full boost in it and the drag spec launch and everything, it has a lot of mid-range torque in it, being a 3.2 litre. And essentially what's happened is the first time we had an issue when we went 860, it lifted the head, and that's basically just the torque this thing made. It actually also distorted the block when it did that. It pushed out a Welsh plug, but there's obviously resin behind it, so no water came out. And on the last engine, we did actually have a little bit of that wear on the main bearing as well. So essentially what's happening is the age of the block, the amount of work that it's done, and just bad luck has meant that a little bit of twisting. Could we prevent it? No, we couldn't. A brace, concrete, everything we've done to it isn't going to do it. Now, our long-time viewers know I have a lot of experience with the workshops that have built these engines, put them in cars, the results they've got, etc. And you're probably thinking, oh, but I've seen a cast block go into the 7s. Well, here's the thing. A lot of the cast blocks that have run 7s aren't actually RB30s. They're RD28s. And if you've watched our PRP Platinum Tech videos where we compare engine blocks, you'll see the RD28 has thicker bores, thicker deck, and is a different block and is stronger. So you can't compare the RD28 to the RB30. Now there are some RB30 blocks that have gone pretty quick, bottom 8s, even high 7s. But here's the thing we've learnt about the RB30 block. Once you go past, I say 1,000, Con says 1,100, but once you go past that sort of power range, it's a lucky dip. You might get one block that holds together on 1,300 for a year before it has an issue. Another one might go 1,200 for 3 years. And ones like mine, they go 1,150, they're done. Anything over 1,100 is just, you don't know what's going to happen. Now, the thing with our engine is this got put in and made 800 on the first engine setup and was completely reliable on 800 horsepower for a couple of years. Then we put the G45 on, we went to like 1,000, 1,050, no issues. We did not get any issues at all until we went to 1,150 horsepower or above. That happened when we went the 860, then we fixed it all, we went to America, the car was fine for 800, 1,000 kilometers or so on 1,000 horsepower, and as soon as I put it on 1,150 at the track, we had the issue straight away. So for us, this block doesn't want to go past, let's say, 1,100. Now the good thing about that is we can probably reuse this block. So our plan from here, we're going to take some measurements, hopefully just different bearing size will fix the issue. If it has to go to the machine shop, we will, but the plan is this whole 3.2 litre Nitto stroker kit, wide journal, crank, everything, is going to go back into this bottom end and become the new engine for our gold R33 GTR, project no secret. So for those waiting on an update on that car, once we have an engine for that car, things will start to progress. So that is our plan with this. But to do that, we're just going to take some measurements of the tunnel and see if we need any machine work or whether bearings do it. But if you're looking for an overall assessment on what happened with our RB30, all I can really say to you is we went past 1,100 horsepower, and after that power level, mate, it's just a guess how long your engine will last. But I will say this engine has done a lot of work. Hundreds of roll racing passes, drag passes, dyno pulls. It's done a lot of work. So for it to fall apart above 1,150 is not that bad, but let's face it, it really didn't fall apart that bad. The bores are fine, the deck's fine. You can see CID's tuning and engine building is perfect. There's nothing wrong with the pistons or rods. The rest of all of the journals are perfect. The rest of all the bearings are perfect. It is literally just the middle main bearing that caused all that issue. So yeah, what to do from here? Let's get some measurements. It looks like we're building another engine very, very soon.